What do you think is the most common furry name? As a quick explainer to any poor souls not in the fandom who found this video and haven't immediately left, when people create a furry character, or a fursona, as the popular lingo puts it, they choose their character's name, and usually it's different than their given name. This is a chance to put their own personal stamp on the character and their identity, and I want to look into what names get chosen the most, with a little bit of number crunching. As such, this is a story about names, the long shadows they cast, and the echoes felt in our identity, which is especially true when we get to choose our own names. And for max engagement, I'll of course read it in a top 20 format. Stick around and see if your name is on here. Come along with me. Let's all look to the stars and see what's in the cards as we explore the topic of furry names. And now the obligatory framing device. William Shakespeare once said, "What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell just as sweet." Now, I don't know who this Shakespeare guy exactly is, but he seems pretty wise to this, and I endeavored to learn a little bit more about him. On further research, I learned he wrote the most succinct description of a furry room party ever, wrote a story about a man who transforms into an anthropomorphic donkey, and is hated by most middle and high schoolers. From these 3 points alone, I can conclude that Shakespeare was a furry, and while I think his general wisdom applies on the arbitrary nature of names, he may need to reconsider for fursona names. You see, in the furry fandom, when we make that character, or fursona, we get to pick a name, and when we get to choose the name, is the name really all that arbitrary? So with that random framing device out of the way, let's talk furry names. This all came after I had a brief conversation about names with Zee the Raccoon, about common and shared names in the fandom. Just like jokes about a million zillion blue dogs in the fandom, there's jokes about furry names too. We're named like hippie children, half of us are named Jinx, and the other half after a tree or some thinly veiled reference to Sonic the Hedgehog. From this conversation with Zee about how some names seem to be really common in the furry fandom, I decided to dig a bit more. See, I'm a creature of numbers, of science, data science. Also, I'm a creature who doesn't know that many furries online, so I decided to let numbers do the talking. Cue that data science montage. I started by crafting my own web crawler to scan all the furry sites for precious data. I then compiled that data into a 19-dimensional vector representation of each name for a maximized machine learning vector model. And by then projecting each name into overlapping fields by species, I was able to truly learn the trends in ebb and flow. Or I got lazy, went into Furtrack, copied all the character names and pasted them into a spreadsheet on Google Sheets, which is what most people calling themselves data scientists really do anyway. And then they get paid a ton of money to use Excel and basic math and make it sound more complicated. Remember kids, if there's any lesson to take from this video, don't call it a spreadsheet, call it data science, and add a 0 to your salary demands. So why did I scrape Furtrack? Well, there didn't appear to be a good way to separate the art from the artist on the other sites. And it seems now like half the characters on Toy House are named for sale. So I went with the 27,862 names I found on Furtrack, took the first word in each alias, thankfully the site makes use of the underscore for most naming, and counted duplicates. Also, I could get the names via a gigantic copy-paste and not have to figure out scripting a web crawler on my Windows box. Look, I'm just a simple imaginary creature. What do I know about advanced analytics? Now, I should mention here that Furtrack is obviously not 100% representative of the furry fandom, because it focuses on fursuiters, because, well, that's what it tracks, just like the name says. So it does bias towards slightly older folks with spending money. On the other hand, it means that the name is one of their primary names. So the people with 200 sonas out there have the few they shelled out cash for, adding a level of primacy or commitment to it. Also, it's a name they're presumably okay with being called in public. Again, just a bit of a measure of commitment. Unlike someone naming their 100th Sona Sonic Smexy Love Dumpster 69, this is a name someone is willing to be called to their face, masked or otherwise. After dumping duplicate counts, I went in for a closer look. So, from a pool of over 27,000 names, around 14,000 of you came up as unique. Go you! Now let's go over them one by one for the remainder of this. Okay, let's not. But yeah, over half the names are unique within the very unscientific measures here. After that, we see the duplicates start. Not huge numbers of duplicates, mind you, but a few trends do emerge. And now, because this is meant for the internet, we have to do the obvious clickbait title promise with the top 20 furry names, wherein I break down the most common names on Furtrack, totally roast them. Okay, not really roast them, but and see if I can guess your furry awakening from your name. Why 20? I don't know, why not? Also, top 20 starts at around the 1 in 1,000 furries at 25 names or higher. But I guess it's only fair before I continue to talk about my own name, isn't it? Now, personally, the name Cheshi was more or less a snap decision. I needed a nickname to join a furry chat group for some frantic fanfic. I chose Cheshi because, 1, I've always been a fan of the Alice in Wonderland aesthetic. Think of it as the Victorian-era version of the Amazing Digital Circus or Invader Zim. And growing up before the World Wide Web was really a home thing, that was my source of weird. It's a vibe, what can I say? 2, given my penchant for appearing out of nowhere, saying stuff that's attempting to be insightful but is actually just incomprehensible, and then vanishing, well, that's kind of on brand for me. So yeah, there is the story of Cheshi. I really tend to jump in ears deep on things, so a snap choice led me here. A nickname, a few pieces of art commissioned, and a fursuit later, and here we are. This has been the incredibly short bio of Cheshi that nobody asked for. Now back to the video. So let's break out the clickbait voice and get to the top 20 most popular furry names. Number 20. Felix Blue and Silver at 25. We'll just call this a tie at 25 each. Given there's a famous feline Felix out there, say that 3 times fast, I'm not too surprised about this one. What does surprise me is for some strange reason there's no Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Goofy. Oh, maybe that's why. There were 11 Robins out there, and given that seems to be the Gen X Furry Awakening movie of choice, I guess that's fair. But let's be honest, we see the name Robin and we know. As for Blue and Silver, well, those are perfectly acceptable goth or emo accent colors. So those check out. Cool sounding? Check. Totally not possibly linked to any stereotypical furry fandom things? No siree, no jokes about blue things at all in the fandom. Felix, your furry awakening is from the dim recesses of black and white memories. Blue, I mean, we've got Blue's Clues. Maybe that hit you hard in the childhood. Or because you're a blue dog. And hey, if the shoe fits, well, not so much a shoe as an expensive padded body carpet, but you get the idea. As for Silver, oh, we know. Number 19. Echo at 26. Echo. Maybe you saw someone else with the name and decided to repeat it yourself? I'll be honest here, this one definitely falls into beloved family pet territory. You're loyal to your group, upbeat, and only occasionally poop on the carpet. So you've got that going for yourself, which is nice. Possible furry awakening. I don't know, Echo the Dolphin? But don't worry, the con has plenty of pool toys for you. Number 18. Jax at 27. First off, my deepest apologies. You were likely all here before the Amazing Digital Circus. But now you've got a namesake. At least it's a big Anthro Bunny thing and popular, so that counts for something. Or more likely, the creator of the Amazing Digital Circus knows a little too much here. Possible furry awakening? Well, if you're seeing this video 10 years from now, don't worry, your digital circus secret is safe with us. Otherwise, you went for something general like Jack, but the extreme 90s wore off on you with the extreme spelling. We'll get to Jack later, don't worry. Number 17. Lucky at 27. Also straight into beloved family pet territory, or mobster nickname. You know, I'm just going to leave the roasting on this one alone, just in case. If you're a millennial, home on the range. If you're Gen X, 101 Dalmatians. Or one of these waved at you and you've never looked back. Number 16. Max at 28. You're solid, dependable, boring, but you're solid and dependable in your boring ways. So you'll always be invited back to the party, but no convention is ever in danger of instituting the Max rule for something you did. As for your possible furry awakening, I don't know, the Grinch Who Stole Christmas? Let me know your furry awakening, or what convention has a rule named after you and why. Number 15. Pepper at 28. On the flip side from Max, you aspire to be the reason a convention has the Pepper rule. But we all know this wild streak is closer to caffeinated theater kid energy than actual wild streak. Possible furry awakening? You'll never tell because it might reveal a little bit too much about your ways. Or you overshare and your fur affinity page has 300 commission images of your awakening in lascivious detail. Take your pick. Number 14. Riley at 28. Clearly you're named after the famous 1910 racehorse, and we all know what horses are known for. What, it's running around a lot. Get your mind out of the gutter. As for your possible furry awakening, I looked this up, and this came up, like Riley Byers from the Twilight Saga. I'm not one to judge, but shouldn't you pick one of the werewolves from the other side at least? Number 13. Atlas at 29. Atlas, the mythological figure with the weight of the world on their shoulders. And as someone in a fursuit, I can understand that comparison for both figurative and literal reasons. These suits get pretty heavy pretty quickly. For your furry awakening, ironically you put the weight of the fursuit on your shoulders to take the weight of the world off your shoulders. For that moment of peace in your life, meaning there's no single answer to the riddle of your turmoil and awakening. Life can weigh you down, but your spirit will persevere, and no single answer can unravel the complexities of your awakening and self. But your furry awakening is probably Sonic. Sorry. Number 12. Coda at 29. I know with his tragic death on April 24th, 2024, your tribute to Ghanaian gospel singer Coda is... It's the bear from Brother Bear, isn't it? Somewhere around 20 years ago was your furry awakening at the hands of this timeless Disney classic. Okay, this beloved Disney classic. Look, it was beloved to you, and that's all that really matters. Well, your furry awakening's a bit on the nose, isn't it? Number 11. Jay at 31. Surprisingly, not all of you are birds. Nothing really jumped out here, so maybe you went for a generic name. Sorry, that was mean and uncalled for. I promise I'll do better now that we get to the top 10 furry names. Number 10. Ace at 32. Starting in at number 10, we have Ace. Not just a name, a status. You can be a flying ace, an ace in the hole, a pet detective, or even a superhero. You can be either a top or bottom card, that is, or be neither and nothing of the sort, if you choose your name with this flag in mind. As for your furry awakening, maybe you were the 32 people who saw Lunatics Unleashed and said that 90s sensibility design was for you. Or Ace from Dog City. Despite the name being popular, either you picked the most obscure characters out there, or I'm dead wrong. The safe bet is on me being dead wrong. Number 9. King at 33. Okay, we've just had Ace, now we've got King. If we're playing poker, we're off to a good set of hole cards, especially if suited. And since we're getting these names from Furtrack, well, you're all suited. But I do think now's a good time to stop talking about hole cards. It just sounds weird. A little less ambiguous than Ace, the King remains at the top, ruling overall. Or it's just a name for a cute little puppy. Because recall, Rex is also just Latin for king. Unlike Ace, which is a bit more ambiguous in many ways, King definitely projects a certain image. From regal pet to strong ruler. And your furry awakening could be one of many things. We've got the Lion King, the true Lion King, Fighter King, King Clawthorn, and perhaps the ruler of blue dogs everywhere, King Furry. Look, this field is a fertile one. Nothing wrong with being large and in charge. Or a good little puppy. Who's a good little puppy? Sorry. King still gives me the family dog vibe. Number 8. Ash at 35. The philosopher and proto-edgelord Nietzsche once said, "He who fights with monsters might take care, lest he thereby become a monster." And while it had not been technically invented yet, pocket monsters are technically monsters too. You fought too many beasts in Pokemon and one day woke up as one yourself, which I think was the plot of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. Anyone have that obscure game as your awakening? That or you're continuing the tradition of using hippie tree names as your fursona name. Y'all need to start picking more weird species of tree. Babinga is a cool name, or Purple Heart, or Zebrawood. You know, on second thought, don't pick Zebrawood as your furry name. That might go over weird. As for your furry awakening, you probably watched Pokemon, looked at the myriad of characters around, and said to yourself, you know, I just want to be the pet. And that's just fine. Now get inside this small ball until you're ready to fight at my command. Number 7. Red at 35. Now this might be a variant on Ash, as Trainer Red, but I'm sure if I look around I can find some inspiration for... Oh, well, that's a bit obscure, but I'm sure that could be a strong influence. Oh. You know, everyone talks about blue dogs in the fandom, but clearly y'all aren't sleeping on red ones either. For furry awakening, guys, do I really have to say it? Number 6. Jack at 36. Okay, hold on. We've had an ace, a king, and now we have a jack. I would say we're approaching a straight, but we'd have to figure out the odds for that first. Time for a combinatoric segue. Welcome to Number Wang, where I give a bunch of numbers and try to recall my high school combinatorics class. We did do poker hands back in the day, and I think this checks out, so here we go. First, we have to see how many of you are named after a particularly inspiring hand of cards. So if you're wondering, 3 of you are named 10, and 9 of you are named Queen. So now we can start figuring this out. First, we need to find out how many ways 5 furries on Furtrack can be drawn at random. No replacement, no ordering. This is like us looking at 5 fursuiters walking into a room, and once all 5 are there, checking for names. We have 27,862 furries in this list. So that's going to be 27,862, choose 5. Which works out to this ugly equation. And that leads to a number of combinations of... Ooh, that's a big number. Which apparently equals 139 quintillion, 869 quadrillion, 920 trillion. That's a lot of ways 5 furries can be in a room. But we want to know if these 5 furry cards are collectively a straight. So with 10 to ace, we have to multiply together all the ways they can appear. This part always hurts my head because I swear we have to divide by 5 factorial to remove the ordering, but everything I've looked at online says this is the way to go, so I'll trust them. So how many ways can 10 to ace show up? Well, we just have to multiply for each number in the straight. 32 times 33 times 9 times 36 times 3 equals 1,026,432. But wait, you say, there are straights below 10 to king. And you are correct. Now for a bit more combinatorics that I'm probably getting wrong. None of you were named 9. I'm actually kind of shocked at that for 9 tails alone. Someone get on that. 1 of you is named 8. 6 of you are named 7. Less common than lucky, I guess. 2 of you are named 6, and this is getting really confusing. 1 of you is named 5. 2 of you are named 4. 2 of you are named 3. We'll stretch a bit and say 2 of you are named 2. For 2 tokes and 2 tone. They might just be missing a word separator. So we have the following bizarre distribution of names. Also, I will not be considering the 2 folks named Joker, 3 if you include Joker Fox, as wildcards for this calculation. Because jokers don't belong in poker. Fight me. Now, there's no easy way to calculate this given the uneven distribution, so let's just brute force it. Ace to 5, 256 ways. 2 to 6, 16 ways. 3 to 7, 48 ways. 4 to 8, 24 ways. And that zilch in the 9 column cuts this off really quickly. Adding all of them up, we get 1,026,776. Now, the pedantic people out there will point out that I need to subtract all the straight flushes from the mix. But I won't on 3 reasons. 1, a straight flush is still a straight. 2, every furry on Furtrack is by definition suited. 3, I've run this joke too far to waste any more time on it. All in total, 1,026,776 divided by 139 quintillion, 869 quadrillion, 920 trillion gives you that number. Or a 0.00000000000073% chance. Given the 0.39% chance for a regular straight, that's considerably worse. And with that segue over with, I think the answer is quite clear. Don't ever bet on straight in the furry fandom. Your furry awakening was... Wait, what were we even talking about? Number 5. Orion at 37. All I'm going to say here is you looked at all the possible animal constellation names, and you chose the hunter. That's a bit sus. I'd comment on your secret furry awakening, but I'm worried about the consequences in the form of a red laser dot on my chest. Moving on, quickly. Number 4. Shadow at 37. Dark, mysterious origins, shrouded in mystery. Your name leaves you a secretive closed book. I, for one, have no idea where your furry awakening originated. It is a mystery, shrouded in an enigma, wrapped in a riddle. Okay, I kid. For those wondering, 18 of you are named Miles, 3 of you are named Sonic, and 2 of you are named Amy, and none of you are named Knuckles. The people have spoken, I guess. Number 3. Jasper at 38. Solid, dependable. Like a rock. Well, to be exact, a rock. This is a name chosen for stability, strength, and dependability. Or maybe you like getting stoned, but hey, I won't judge. Possible furry inspiration? You went to Chuck E. Cheese as a kid? and seeing Jasper T. Jowls formed your personality. Or for the Albertans out there, you've got your own mascot. Just 2 more to go in our top 20 furries. And whoa, have we been finding some serious deep truths here. Number 2, Kai at 39. So let's dig into some prominent anthro characters named Kai. That's weird. Can't seem to find any. I did want to break in here with a side note. I know there's a Kai in Digimon, and Digimon is a source of mass furry awakening, but that seems like a really random link to a side character, and not like a strong argument to be made for that character in particular. Also, a cursory search of the name Kai says it means king in Persian, but I am not adjusting the poker odds, so I will ignore that point. Let's check name origins. Estonian, Japanese, Maori, Persian. Okay, not much to go on there either. And it's gender neutral, popular, but not too popular. It's a really common name in the community, but there doesn't seem to be any particular awakening or moment for this name. Hell, I even asked a few friends just to see if I was missing something obvious. People's responses were, yeah, there's a lot of Kais out there, but we don't know why. But maybe, and this applies to a lot of the other names I've gone over, maybe that's the point. You know, I don't think I'd be going too far out on a limb to say that a hobby where people cover themselves head to toe in a collective mask might want to be private about certain things. And don't think the utility of a name that defies roasting hasn't been lost on a guy half-heartedly trying to roast people's names and furry origins. I've been delicately roasting names, if you can call that roasting, that convey some sort of implications, so maybe, just maybe, people want a name that just allows them to just, be. And a name like Kai, and frankly many others on this list, fits the bill very well. I get it. It's strange seeing the fandom often cleaves into 2 very different camps. I know the reputation of the old days was that your fursona name was practically a thesis statement, or a dating profile wrapped into a name. Open books and all that, because really Overshare Bear was the official fursona for the entire fandom. Of course, that was also a different age, and now with the awareness of digital permanence, we are all in our way forced to choose between a life open or guarded, even when we dress in a colorful costume for thousands of people to gawk at. I alluded to that before, where a name stops being arbitrary once we pick it for ourselves, and I think that's maybe why you've chosen a name that lets you just be yourself, with no strings or implications attached. It means you have actions and creations to define you, without a name to precede you. Especially for folks still on their own journey to discover their true selves, this sort of name gives that freedom. Something to also note is that Jack, Ash, Jay, and Max are all affectionate short forms of more conventional names. The technical term for this is a hypochorism, a fact I learned from a far superior YouTube video essay about names, and wanted to use this as an opportunity to cite it as one of the sources of inspiration for my videos. I guess I should point out the big cartoon dog in the room that a hypochorism is also known colloquially as a pet name, because furry joke goes here, I guess. Regardless, self-selecting a name of familiarity might just be that little bit of window dressing to make a fursona feel more lived in, giving them almost a backstory of sorts. Or maybe it speaks to a deeper need, because having a name that's a term of affection implies that there's at least one loving person there to give it to you, even if sometimes that person is just yourself. It's funny, thinking back on my own real-life name, because my parents picked my given name on the basis of specifically being unable to shorten it as a term of endearment. And who knows, maybe I picked Cheshi because, to paraphrase an old saying, if you don't get your term of endearment naturally, store-bought is fine. Maybe that's something for me to think about too. Oh wait, what was this video about? I'm afraid this clickbait formatted top 20 has gone completely off the rails here. But we have a sacred duty to get to number 1. Sorry, I don't make the rules. But maybe this line of thoughts brings number 1 into sharp focus. Maybe it's the essence of why people are making a fursona in the first place. Number 1. Nova, Latin for new. And, I think that gets to the heart of it. This name is the most common on Furtrack by far, at 43. After all the words I've spelled on the topic, the symbolism behind the Latin word for new isn't lost here. Awakenings, transformations, beginnings can all be seen in this name. This name is a clean page, a new chapter, a break from the before. Maybe, and I certainly hope this is the case, your fursona has helped usher in a new and wonderful part of your life. Something you can carry with you for the foreseeable future. It is your clean slate. Use it the best way you can. Or maybe you aspire to be the brightest thing in the furry stratosphere for a brief time before exploding, and in that blast of searing white light, incinerating everything in your orbit. Look, it can be read either way, I'm just saying. And so we end not with a bang or a whimper, but an exploding star. Not a bad way to cap off this slightly derailed countdown, is it? Oh wait, we need clickbait mode, and we have to segue back to the framing device. Whoa, that was a crazy list. Number 2 will shock you. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to keep up to date on all the furry name shenanigans. You know, I started off with a quote from Shakespeare about the arbitrary nature of names, and how it's kind of invalidated when you choose one yourself, but maybe that comes full circle again when you choose a name that purposely gives yourself an open field and a fresh start. So whatever name you choose, make it your own, and the stars are the limit. Anyway, I think I've rambled long enough on this one. I want to thank you for sticking around, and I'd love to hear your theories on why these names got so popular in the comments. Now it's time for me to make my exit, pursued by a bear. Thank you.